Good morning, everyone. It is not necessarily the morning when you're watching this video, so I do not know why I started with a good morning. It could be good afternoon, could be evening, could be whatever you want. Anyway, starting with some waffle, because this podcast is called Pass the Syrup. We are trying to pour a little syrup on the agency waffle that's floating around. There's a lot of it. I've started the episode with my own batch of waffle. Let's get straight into introducing our fantastic guests for this week. So first up, we have Alex Pelosi-Buchanan. Alex has been in an agency for 12 years. He's currently sales manager at Archer & Co. But much more importantly than that, he started life at an agency in Abergavenny, which is where I used to spend my summers as a kid on the farm, not our farm, on a farm would have been the right way to say that. And so we have that something special in common. Alex, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. It was a lovely introduction, but yeah, very, very well. And you should come up to Abergavenny more often, mate. Last time you came, you brought the weather with you.
Listen, well, actually, it's sunny outside right now, but yeah, I can see rain clouds in the distance. I'm actually making an appearance. Speak to Joe. There will be an appearance at some point in the next month or so. Looking forward to it. Normally have a good night out down there as well. Nice bit of food.
You do indeed. You do indeed.
Do indeed. Next up, we've got Michelle Gallagher, the one and only Michelle Gallagher of JDG Estates in Lancashire. EA Masters #1 estate agent in the whole of the UK last year and this year, 2022 and 2023. Absolutely insane. The Manchester City of estate agency. Michelle, 22 years experience. We are honoured to have you. How are you, Michelle?
Great, thank you. And thank you for asking me.
You're welcome.
No, yeah, loving life.
Good.
Playing, even the sun's shining up north, which is quite a rarity.
Well, yeah, I mean, as I say, yeah, we have got a bit of sun here, but we've had very, very average weather in London the last few days. Typical British summertime.
We would take average up north. It's been poor for us. Average would be good for us.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, context, framing. I like it. Lovely to have you with us. And then finally, we have Adam Coffin of Coapt, which is an estate agency down in Brighton. Adam is a senior sales consultant, 5 years in the industry. Great to have you on, Adam. How's it going?
Pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben. As you've all mentioned weather so far, I will rub it in that I'm in Brighton. It is sunny. That's what Brighton is. It's glorious down here, as it always is. But yeah, delighted to be here. Thanks, Ben. I'm really looking forward to it.
This is such a British start to a podcast.
Weather.
All talking about the weather.
How's the weather?
Amazing.
Just please send us
Great icebreaker.
What? Yeah, amazing. Get into a taxi, get into an Uber, talk about the weather, talk about holiday, sit down for a haircut, talk about the weather. We can't help it, can we, in this country? Good for us. All right, well, that's estate agents for you. Good to have you all here. Let's crack on. We're going to start with our regular piece, Sam Offley of Agents Together. Every week he presents a current issue that his mentees are sort of dealing with, or they're raising, or something they'd like advice on. So quick soundbite on Agents Together. It is a charity run by agents for agents, really. It's a mentee-mentor charity. So if you think you could benefit from having a mentor, it's a free service. As I said, it's a charity. It's amazing. I'm a mentor. I think some of the guys here are mentors. And not just if you think you could benefit from having a mentor, maybe you benefit from being a mentor. The best way to learn is teach. And I can't recommend it enough. It's really good for the soul. So reach out to Sam if you'd like to get involved. But without further ado, let's play Sam's clip for you guys and get your feedback.
Hello, Pass the Syrup guests. Now, my question to you this week is, what advice would you give someone who's struggling with uncertainty?
Now, that is that is one of his vaguest questions for support we have received so far. Struggling with uncertainty. We can take this in a million different directions. So I've got my notepad here, and in huge, just before we get to that, anyone watching right now, please hit the like, subscribe, and subscribe to the account, because I'm constantly reminded by people that I don't say that enough. So I'm going to say that as often as I possibly can. If you like Sam Offley, hit like. That's great. Everyone likes Sam Offley. Okay. Agents are struggling with certainty. Adam, what would your advice be to agents struggling with uncertainty?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do you a favour here, Ben, and sing your own praises, because I think my tagline is you're not alone. There's a lot of agents in the country where on every high street, hundreds on every high street, we're like parasites in Brighton, personally. you're not alone. You know, there's always going to be an agent in the same shoes as you. You know, looking at this call, there's people here with wealth and wealth of experience, and there's the networks out there. You can go to networking events, you can join events like this. You know, agents together. There's all these fantastic networks and people you can speak to, get advice. You know, spitball off people, throw ideas around. You're not going to be the only one having the same doubts or uncertainties as you're feeling. There's going to be someone else who is either in the same shoes as you or has been there before, and they're going to be able to help you. And estate agents, I think sometimes we get a bad rep for, you know, fierce competition amongst ourselves, but actually that's only really the surface. There's a lot of agents out there who are willing to share their experience, teach others, you know, take on mentees, mentor others. And that's the first place I'd start is, you know, there's going to be an agent somewhere in your local area who's been through what you're going through and it's going to be able to help.
Great advice. Going to have to put up Parasites. That's, yeah, wow. What starting with a bang.
Strong word. Yeah, straight in. Yeah, no holding back there.
Straight in. The oxymoron is describing estate agents with parasites and in the same sentence saying, but there are plenty out there that will help you. Love it. But you're absolutely right. There are a lot of agents out there, and that means there are a lot of good agents out there willing to help each other. And yeah, I say this almost every podcast. 20 years ago, when I started an estate agency, it's a very different looking climate, culture, approach to working with other agents. We would spend a good chunk of our time hiding the keys from competing agents. And now it's much more collaborative. It's much more mature. It's much more sensible. It's a more professional industry. Still room to improve. But yeah, great advice, Adam. Michelle, what advice would you offer?
Okay, I mean, I'm going to go down the route of definitely talking to others because that's going to make you realize you're not alone. But equally, I also think action is needed. There's far too much talking and actually just getting the job done. So my advice is going to be, if we're talking certainty in your marketplace, is actually use the tools out there to look at what's selling. Too many agents, I know, chase after the big stuff, but if in your marketplace it's the smaller stuff that's selling, you really have to focus on what the marketplace is doing. Personally, I like a sense of achievement each day. So I work on the theory of a marginal gain of 1%. And I always have a list of things that I can be doing to move forward to my goal. So that means if I've had a day where I've not sold a house or I've not been instructed on how to sell, I can finish my day knowing that I've achieved. And I think that's really good for people's mindset.
Yeah, completely agree. Again, great advice. The sense of achievement piece. I just don't think you can beat a checklist. A list of things that I want to get done every day. Historically, when we've opened up new areas or gone into new areas or maybe new branches, although that's not necessarily the structure we operate from right now, it can be a really, really tough process because that sense of achievement piece doesn't always come in the traditional sense, you know, a listing or a sale. I mean, I say that when you're setting up a new business, actually some businesses are low volume and they do a lot less than one per day. So yeah, I'm in complete agreement. A checklist, the endorphins, the dopamine that releases when you work through that checklist, you get that sense of achievement of having completed what you want to. It's great. Data in your market. I mean, that's my absolute love language. Know your market, know the data, remove your bias, which is so difficult. We're led to this, the bright, shiny stuff, but yeah, work the data. Alex, sir, over to you. Big finish, big advice. What you got for us?
I think probably the biggest thing at the moment, I think we've, like I said, if we go back to you know, the market pre-crash of 2008, I don't know the exact figures, but you know, you can say there's twice as many agents on the high street or out there, whether they're self-employed. There are more estate agents than ever before that have set up. So it's a crowded marketplace, and a bit like you said down in Brighton, Adam, there are tons of agents, and I think it's like anything. You've just got to make yourself stand out. And I think we've gone from a market where anyone could sell anything to a market now where houses aren't selling, they are taking longer. So now it's more about, I mean, this is where I think a lot of agents will start to show their true colors. So you've just got to make sure that you're the agent out there that is being that member of the community, that is being the one who's got the best marketing, who is actually going above and beyond for their clients. And that will carry you through, because if you just do what every other agent's doing in your town, I think you're just setting yourself up to fail. And I think we will see agents close on the high street, or even self-employed agents, doesn't matter whether they're on the high street or not. I think we will see agents fail. And that's because they're not willing to adapt to the market. And I think, you know, if you look through the history of a estate agency, you think of all the things and everything we've been through, and we're still on the high street. We're one of the few businesses that are still existing on the high street. You think of all the other industries that have closed up. And I think that it's about adjusting the sails. You know, at the end of the day, the winds have changed, but we've just got to adjust the sails and just make a plan and just stick to that plan and just, dare to be a little bit different and just make sure you keep nailing the basics. But like Michelle said, have a checklist, make sure you're doing the basics and the rest will look after itself. So that's my advice.
Very nice, very good. I just want to highlight one thing you said about being the face in your community, which I wholeheartedly agree with. But when there are so many agents out there, it becomes a dogfight for the transaction as opposed to a more holistic view about being an integral piece of the community. That I think is just such massive advice. Embed yourself in your community and be what the community needs, as opposed to just another parasite who's desperately working and just fighting for a list. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't fight for a listing. Of course you do. That's absolutely your job. But that element of being a part of the community, I think, is just a massive, massive piece of advice that people should take away. To expand, go on, Alex.
I was going to say, because I think that, let's face it, I think, as you said, parasites, people don't like estate agents to start with. And I think there's a level of, there's a lot of good, humble agents out there, like self, Ben, Michelle, who, are absolutely smashing what they're doing. The likes of Finding Country, John Hanford, is so humble about what they do, but they're not showy. And there's a lot of agents out there that are very showy, the cars, the watches, the suits. But people don't like us to begin with. So, gloating about that stuff, especially during a time where people are struggling for money, I just think that reputation as such, that won't carry you through. And I think, by actually getting involved and helping the people in your community in whatever that way may be, even if it's just doing market updates. I mean, like Michelle, your market updates are fantastic, and being that person that people know they can rely on to keep them up to date on what's happening in the market, be that trusted advisor. And that will, like I said, again, that's just something that's so important, within your local market.
Yeah.
The big thing I'm going to say there is you've got to be consistent, because it's great saying it's in the community, but there are a lot of estate agents across the UK who, and I'm going to use January as the prime month. January, they go hell for leather. Okay, they're everywhere. They're doing this, they're doing that. They're going to smash it out the park. Come February, they've run out of steam, and they're back to doing what they're doing. Where I never set January as a new year, new start. Every day is a new start. And if you're just consistent every single day in what you do and show up, you will build traction. And as Tom Panis called it, it's the attraction agent.
Sorry, Michelle, who said that?
Tom Panis.
Oh, Tom, yeah.
With the attraction agent model. It's something I picked up on about 7-8 years ago, and it always stuck with me.
Yeah, I mean, what I just took away from you, as opposed to the attraction agent piece, is it's human nature, this strange thing that new year, new start, new me, I'm going to start a diet, I'm going to stop smoking, I'm going to stop drinking. You can set all these crazy goals, and within 2 weeks, you've dropped them all. Anyone who, from a habit formation perspective, I don't know if any of you guys have read this book, Atomic Habits, it's my favorite book. James Clear. If you haven't read the book, I can't recommend it enough. I read it at least once a year, but I also subscribe to his weekly newsletter, which I think is just extraordinarily valuable. And it's a 30-second read. And it's a book on habit formation and the appropriate way to set habits and ensure you stick to your habits. And I'm an obsessive around habits, because everything brushing your teeth is a habit. Getting up in the morning at a certain time of day is a habit. Virtually everything we do is habitual, and you can form good or bad habits. And I think my view is, and this is how we've structured our business over the years, is that you form a business based on great habits. If you have great habits, and the results come out the other end. In January, people try and set every great habit they possibly can, and then it falls apart. Whereas we'll try and incrementally, I think you said it earlier on, Michelle, marginal gains, incremental improvements, a little bit here, a little bit there. We use the word refine more than anything else. And agent together, the issue around uncertainty. Well, just you can be certain that you can improve every day if you want to. You have control over that. So that's an element of certainty you can bring into your life. I imagine, this is complete guess, but right now mentees are saying they're uncertain about the housing market and what it's going to do around interest rates, around property prices, around transaction levels. My personal advice on all of that would be just forget about it. Don't worry about it. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is the business that you're doing, and that you're comfortable that you're doing. If transaction volumes drop by 20% in your town, for just as a nothing, as a made up scenario, it doesn't have to be 20% out of your business or your area. It could be the rest of the market that does 20%. If you do great things, if you're the face of your community, if you're delivering the best possible service, greatest marketing, you're doing everything right, the chances are you'll retain a position. So I think you can be certain about, so you can deliver certainty, or you can feel in yourself that you're delivering the best you possibly can. That's the element of certainty. You want to be your best. If you go through hell, you keep going, right? If things, whether you've got a good market, a bad market, an uncertain market, just keep doing the right stuff. Bit of a cliche, a few cliches thrown in there. And I'm starting to waffle, so we better get on to the next area of the podcast. Okay, great advice, guys. Thank you very much. Let's get on to subject matter number one. So there was a news piece posted back in the last week or the start of this week in relation to artificial intelligence in a state agency. So I've got some data here. It was a survey completed by the development sourcing site Searchland. I think really when we talk about AI in its current context, because it's a buzzword right now, there's a lot going on. You can't get away from it. I think really what people are talking about is generative AI. They typecast it as all AI. AI has been in existence for an extended period of time. Generative AI, who maybe people are not 100% familiar, is almost sort of content-based AI. So learning to create content, whether that's text, whether it's visuals, whatever it might be. So some stats from this survey. 13% of the estate agency community that was surveyed believe AI could make their work obsolete. Half of people surveyed think AI will improve what we do. Half think it won't. 13% have already adapted and brought AI into their business, which is good. Lots of it's around data processing. That's what's referenced in the piece. But there's a bit of pushback. So 84% of those surveyed believe human touch is still needed. There's no way for AI to take over what we do. And 78% believe too much tech can be detrimental to the service you offer your consumer. Quite interesting. In our own business, we've got reasonably heavily into AI over the last year. But let me throw it out to you guys. Alex, let's kick off with you. What are your thoughts on AI? Good thing, bad thing? What's going to happen in the future? What's your prediction? What are your thoughts? What do you believe?
I think that I suppose the best way to look at AI now, it's just the next revolution in a state agency. If we look back to, the days of when we went from analog to digital, when the internet came around, I bet people were having the same conversations then. Have you heard about this thing? Apparently you can send an email. Apparently you can send it and it gets there within minutes. And I think, we've been through several revolutions. You've got, like you said, you've got the internet coming around, the introduction of CRM systems. You've got the likes of Rightmove and property portals coming around, and how the consumer consumes data and how they shop for property changed. Smartphones, when they came around, being able to run your business from anywhere in the world. The rise of social media, being able to put your personal brand out there. This is just another thing, another part of the journey. And obviously, I think it's like anything, we've just got to choose whether we adapt to it. And I think that completely agree that, you don't want it to fully run or automate your business. And I think, there's always going to be that human interaction, because if someone comes into the showroom or you're on an appraisal, at the end of the day, AI doesn't know what kind of characteristics that person, it doesn't know if they're a red or a blue. That's up to us as a human to interact, to find out what's going to work for this person. I think so there's definitely things AI won't be able to replace, but I think it's like anything, it could improve your business. It could take on those mundane tasks. I mean, some of the things it can do, whether that's ChatGPT or management tools. I mean, you can ask it to respond to emails. You can use it to ask to frame things a particular way. It'll even do training. There are so many things that AI can do that could benefit the business and save time. So, I think certainly it's something that is going to become a massive part of many people's businesses. Maybe not now, but I think certainly, it's here, and it's one of those things that it's probably going to be here to stay.
I think you're probably right. It's a nice, long, waffly, really good, meaty, contextual answer for us, for Adam and Michelle to sink their teeth into. So lovely bit of background. Adam, what about you? Are you using AI at the moment? Had it much to do with?
We are, yeah, we're dabbling. We're sort of reeling it in gradually. And I think the important approach we're taking is we're looking at how we can use it before we start doing it. I think, estate agents, as Alex says, we're incredibly versatile. I think as an industry, we have to be. We lose a lot of data, we lose a lot of tech already. We're an industry that, really had to adapt through COVID. And I think since then, agents are really, really adaptable. But the important thing is not to let these tools become a buzzword, is to use these tools in the right way. Yeah, there's obviously a point for, you don't want to show up at a valuation and be the only agent queued up outside who's not using those buzzwords, not saying that, you've got this tech or that tech. But again, in a market like we've got at the moment, you can't just say you've got it. You've got to show how to use it, and you can use it in the right way. I think that's going to be the real priority over the next couple of years. These things are all in development. They're going to be changing a lot. That's the modern world we live in. Things are changing at a rapid pace. And the important thing is, if you're going to use these tools, use them for your own good, use them for your own advantage or the advantage of your clients, as opposed to using them to show you've got this shiny new toy or shiny bell and whistle. Otherwise, it's all style and no substance, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a good point. There was about 6 months ago in America, North America, there was an estate agent made national news because he pointed out how easy his job had become because he now had AI, and what used to take half a day you could now do in about an hour. And he was bragging about it, and he hadn't given any consideration to the fact that the consumer that's that's employing him to do his job, and they're expecting a certain amount of work. There was a lot of backlash. Estate agents, as Alex pointed out earlier on, we're not the most loved group. It's not the occupation that we're not. You guys know what I'm talking about. We're not loved, and it's the same across the world. Whilst other agents are licensed in other areas of the world, they're licensed, they achieve higher fees, and there's a different level of professionalism. There's still that general view that estate agents are salespeople, and you can't really trust them. And so he had a lot of backlash, which at the time I found quite amusing, because I see stuff all the time on social media. I'm sure you guys too, and you think, why is that agent said that? Why have they framed it that way? Why have they worded things in that way? They're talking to 3 people are reading that and enjoying it, and the rest are thinking, who are you trying to show off to? As you pointed out earlier, Alex, you shouldn't be showing off. You should be phrasing things in the correct way. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Use it in the right way. Michelle, using any AI at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, AI has been around for a long time. Google's an early example of AI. But we're using it in, I'm not saying writing our brochures, but certainly improving the way we write our brochures. Of course, there's a lot of still personalization, but it gives it a nice structure and makes it a little bit more interesting. And it saves the time element there, because obviously to make them interesting, when you're not employing professional copywriters, does take a sales neg time, but we can get that interesting element from AI, but then read through and adapt accordingly to how we want it to be. Of course, Facebook marketing, a lot of retargeting now is going down the AI route. So a little bit fearful at first as to how it affects my results, because I was doing very well, but I have seen improvements through it, so that's good. I've even talked about having an AI me in terms of responding to chat messages and things. But then I kind of thought I would have to let people know it's the artificial me, not the real me, as I don't want to mislead.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something I'm toying with to see, can it work without being detrimental, because I'm very much about personalization with clients.
Well, there's actually a tool that I was looking into, which is called Synthesia. I think it's I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but it's basically an AI bot of you. They create a bot, and you can send them videos of you, and they'll make this video bot of you use your voice. And basically, you could go into ChatGPT and say, you could take the local market update stats as you would from wherever, house price index, drop them to ChatGPT, get a text, send it over to that, and it will create an AI video of you. And the other beauty of it is, Ben, said earlier about 40% of London, English is a second language. It will convert it into whatever language you want, and it will speak perfect Mandarin if it has to be. And you can literally just send that to your database, and all that can be done in minutes. And it's things like that. Like you said, Michelle, can save time. You can create a lot more content, but like you said, it's making sure that it doesn't take away from the real you, because we all know people buy people. And I think that's you don't want it to become the kind of lead of the.
I write a lot of my own blogs, a lot of personal blogs. So I thought, rather than trying to transfer those into videos and the time it takes, bearing in mind the level of time I need for market appraisals each week, that would be a solution. But equal at the moment, is it a cost-effective solution? Because the cost of doing that is considerably high. So I'm kind of investigating and waiting to see other people's examples to see actually do I like it or not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agents at the moment playing with, is it Rimini, the app, where you can Barbie yourself or make yourself into a nurse or a doctor. And I see that as fun for personal social media, but in a business context, not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of, you could lose 3 months of your life playing with AI. There's so much crazy fun stuff out there, and it is. I mean, maybe I'm a geek, but I do find lots of it fun. I also am big on systems and processes, and so I see AI as a really good opportunity to streamline those and take away some of the manual labor tasks that. You know, Michelle, you referenced sales negotiators having to write copy, and I just, in my experience, sales negotiators don't enjoy writing copy. That's not, you know, if they're to list off everything they want to do, that finds its way quite far down the list. It's a necessity, or it has been up until now. But there are so many ways we can automate some of, you know, the hard yards, and then do the refining and the cleaning and the improving ourselves. So we use ChatGPT quite a bit in our business right now. I think it's probably worth explaining, because you guys knew we were going to talk about AI, and so and I think you're in tune with what AI is at the moment and what it could become, generative AI specifically. For anyone watching right now, ChatGPT is a tool that will generate content based on everything on the internet up until September 2021. So it's read a lot of the internet up until September 2021. In essence, it's a plagiarism tool. And that sounds like a negative. It's not intended to be a negative. But the risk you have is that you ask a question of ChatGPT, please write me an area guide for Chiswick, West London, which is where I'm sitting right now. It will pull information from the internet. If it happens to find a piece on the internet that's completely incorrect, it can still pull that data. So you must check it yourself. You must check the work. But it is great. We use it for our area guides. We use it for blog posts. We use it for ideas around podcast episodes. We use it for our social media copy. Social media is, you know, it's a hungry beast, social media. And so writing the copy for every piece of content you produce. And so we don't use it word for word, but something as simple as 3 bullet points, please expand on this, turn it into 80 words, apply emojis, what are the right hashtags to use, that sort of thing. It will take away some of the labor from the research you need to do. Still needs to be checked, as I mentioned already, and quite often cleaned up. But the art is asking the right questions of the tools. We've been using it for probably nearly 12 months now. And it's a learning process. And I think the future is learning how to use these tools. I remember listening to a podcast and someone said in the early days of using Google, it was almost a skill, learning how to use Google. And now we're all Google experts. We can find anything we want. My wife can find any shop in 0.03 seconds on Google. But some other interesting stuff that might be people might want to consider. As you've all pointed out, we've all been using AI, not generative AI necessarily, but AI for a long period of time. Google, Amazon, the best personal shopper on the planet, absolutely feed you with what you want to see. The updates to social media algorithms, and they're all becoming AI generated content. We're seeing AI generated based on our search functionality is interesting. But some things that agents could use that might be interesting to have a play around with, that I was in a meeting a few months ago and found this stuff blew my mind. So there's something called Midjourney. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it. Really, really cool. It's an AI image generator. So how does it apply to a estate agency? Well, at the moment, if you were to take on a listing and the room wasn't as fresh as you'd like it to be, it didn't look the part, you might send it over to your CGI guys and say, I need some before and after shots. I need to show what the property could be versus what it is right now. Or maybe I want to put some furniture in. It's an empty property and I want to furnish the property. You would use a service for that. Well, Midjourney can do all that for you. And it is, I mean, I know I sound like a geek. I don't even care. It is so amazing what it can produce. You could put a photo of a property in and say, describe this property to me, please. It will give you a description. Then you feed that description back in and say, and provide some tweaks. So, make this property shabby chic. It's amazing what it produces. Very, very cool. And there's an actual genuine way that estate agents could use that in the future.
That's called
Mid-Journey, one word, Mid-Journey AI, MIDJOURNEY. Very cool. Alex, you've already talked about Synthesia. That's a very cool piece of tech. If you're not confident on video or you want to produce video at scale, really, really useful. It will, you can upload your text and it will produce an avatar, and the avatar, as Alex already pointed out, can read it in a lot of different languages. Wondercraft, which might be one for you, Michelle, it will turn a blog piece or a news article into a podcast. So it will read it for you, and then it will translate it into a conversational podcast, which is very, very cool when you consider, at the moment, my general view around estate agencies, the last 5 years, the change has been so extreme that we used to just list and sell, list and sell, list and sell. Now, there was some quality around how you listed and how you sold and the marketing you did. But so much of what we do is about content production nowadays, and staying relevant and staying in your community and being ever present. And if you just look at social media, how many different platforms do you now need to be on if you really want to cover all the bases, as well as your traditional marketing piece? So to be able to press a button that says, here's a blog article that I wrote that I'm very proud of, but I just don't have the time to go to a podcast studio to record it, to send it out. The click of a button, it will turn it into a podcast for you, which is amazing. The last one, though, that I've got to tell everyone about, and this genuinely blew my mind. None of us can get access to it right now because of the size of our businesses, but it's a piece of AI. It's called Poly AI. It's a voice assistant. So, you know, you have your chatbots on your website. Someone inquires on your website, and the chatbot pops up and says, "Hi, how can I help you?" Well, this is a telephone version of that. It's a constantly learning and evolving piece of AI tech that the voice recording I heard, the conversation I heard, was a genuine conversation between a consumer who was booking a hotel and an AI piece of tech. And it was the most impressive thing I think I've ever listened to, because the AI was building rapport with the caller by using their choice of language, picking up on their tone, mirroring them. When the call first started, you weren't 100% sure who was the robot. I think they managed to pick a caller who maybe wasn't a confident caller, but it was absolutely amazing. And just like your chatbot that sits on your website, you would go through a huge series of questions and say, if the consumer says this, I would like you to respond in this way. If the consumer says this, please respond in this way. Ask these questions, extract this information. But it's conversational. Hand on heart, you could not tell that this was a conversation with a piece of tech. It was breathtaking. Now, it's only available to large businesses at scale, but in terms of impact on a estate agency, applicant registration, seller registration, you can load it with area relevant content. So you could talk, you could upload, you could provide it with recent sales data that it could then have a conversation with the caller. Absolutely amazing. Will that impact our business? Not tomorrow, but that is certainly a tool that could be coming down the line that could really, really have we're very customer centric, touch point heavy. I've historically been quite anti-tech. Great tech, I think, there's a risk around the quality of agency. You mentioned Rightmove, Alex. CRMs get talked about a lot. I'm not a huge fan of what's the language I'm looking for here? Property matching to applicants and just hitting a button and 100 emails get sent out. I think it's great when our guys hit the phone and have that conversation, but I appreciate we are a low volume model and it's slightly different for us. But yeah, that's all really, really interesting stuff that could be coming down the line. And we're sort of, I would say, stage one of generative AI and how it's going to impact everything that we do. The next 5 years is going to be really exciting. And I think the great businesses are going to run with it and look at how they can allow this opportunity to partner with great people who know their stuff, have expertise. I think the world of agency could look very different in the next few years.
Well, I think in the next couple of months, Ben, I mean, I've heard a rumor that even Microsoft have incorporated GPT. So very soon you could be on Microsoft Word, Excel, and it will sit alongside you and it'll give you the advice. So you can just go to it. Because I'm a bit of a procrastinator when it comes to property descriptions and things like that. For me, it's a godsend because it just starts me off write something amazing, and then I can go and tweak it. Saves me so long. Same with emails. I struggle sometimes to figure, how can I respond to this email? And I can just literally copy and paste it and say, please respond to this in a positive manner, reassuring the client that the market, etc., etc. And it's just incredible. I would never have thought to even have started to respond like that. And we've used it and responded, and the client's emailed back going, thank you so much for being so reassuring. And we did that in minutes, where normally I would have probably spent half a day trying to figure out how can I respond to this email. So I think it is it's scary, but like I said, I think it'll be a benefit for everybody, and especially between integrated in tools we use every day very soon. Like I said, very quickly, I think people will start to adapt to using it.
And I think people watching this, agents, absolutely 100% can empathize with your position. An email comes in, it's not even that it's necessarily tricky, but it's one of those things that falls down the list, not in terms of priority, but in terms of enjoyment. I'm going to spend, even if it's 20 to 30 minutes writing that email, with the right prompts, you can create the email in 5 minutes and it's gone. And you don't need to procrastinate anymore, because it's one of those things you can get off your list nice and quick. So I think there's lots and lots of really positive applications. I think we're on for quite an exciting period. Microsoft.
Can I add to that, please?
Go on, Michelle.
Because yes, I still love it for writing detail, everything else, but replying to emails, I understand where it can help, but you've equally got to be able to remember what you've said to a client. And if it's not come from your heart or your person, when you speak to them 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line, you really have to make sure you've kept that email, because if a computer's written it for you, you're going to contradict yourself. So
I think it's about how you use it. I think,
you can. Sorry,
go on, Alex.
I was going to say, because you could just copy and paste and say, reply to this email. But what you do is ChatGPT will do what you tell it to. So if you tell it, this is how I'd like you to respond, this is the points I'd like you to make. So it's like almost getting your point across and the things you want to say to them, but it just kind of, I suppose, puts them into a context that you can just very easily put something together, rather than thinking, how can I frame? Because I struggle to sometimes get what's out here onto paper. So, but you're completely right. Yeah, just copy in and ask ChatGPT and just sending it without reading it. It's like a property description. Some of the things it will write in there, you wouldn't put in a property description any day of the week. And they're very American with some of the things they say. So again, it's the same thing. It's about checking it, acknowledging it, changing it, then sending it. But yeah, I agree, Michelle. Yeah, you've got to make sure there's still that personality, because it's got to sound like it's come from you, because otherwise people think that doesn't sound like Michelle, doesn't sound like Adam. It's just.
And for me, it's also just knowing what you said. So I met a client who I bought a home 18 months ago, and I just happened to bump into her in Home Bargains. But I remember the conversation that we had, because it was my words.
Yeah.
Could just go straight back to it. And she said, oh my God, I can't believe you remember. Well, actually, it's my job to remember, but I can remember if it's actually come from me, because it's my truth. And that's when people ask about what the market's doing. I can always remember what it's doing, because it's my truth, it's my research, it's my words. Where if I've asked AI what the market's doing and just sent that, I haven't a clue.
It's the same as we do a lot of auto prospecting letters. The same thing. You get automated letters going out every week, and we always say to the team that you need to know what these letters say, because if a client rings you and says, "Oh, hi, you sent me a letter last week," and you don't know what's in the letter, you're stuffed, because it's signed off by you, and they say, "Oh, in your letter you explained about why I shouldn't reduce my price again. Why is that?" You think, "Oh God, I don't even know what the letter said." So it's the same thing. You've got to make sure whatever content you're putting out there, whether it's a post on social media, I think you've got to make sure you know what you're talking about, because like you said, you'll end up you're making a noose for yourself.
I mean, a colleague of my team put it really nicely last week, which is some of these tools, they need to be used as Photoshop for words. You're producing the content, you're putting the knowledge and your expertise as an agent into it, and using these tools to polish your product. What you shouldn't be using is the equivalent of generating something completely alien, something that's completely computer generated, and it's not your knowledge, it's not your skill. And again, we're sort of gone full circle here, and this is where good agents use this tech well, because they're using it to polish their own product. They're using it to smarten up their own knowledge and expertise in a presentable manner, as opposed to relying on it to do their job for them. And that's where good agents will excel using this tech, and other agents it'll be a get out of jail free. It will save them a bit of time, but actually they're going to get tripped over by not being able to follow up or answer those questions, whether then face to face with their client.
Totally agree. I mean, if you post on Google Business, you'll realize you've only got so many characters, and my market updates report do not fit into those characters. But I've now saved a lot of time because ChatGPT, I can say, please condense to X amount of words. And it does that very nicely for me. Quick read through to make sure it's not missed a key point out, and then I can post it. But it's still my words, my language.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I right now, I mean, I don't think it could anyway. There's not, Bard from Google is more up to date, which is Google's version of it. But yeah, I would urge anyone watching this. This is not a silver bullet for not having to produce any content yourself anymore. This is, as Adam put it, this is polishing up your own work. But exciting for the future, absolutely. Let's see how we get on. Let's get on to subject number 2. Because it's 8 minutes to 11, as I knew it would be. Although to be, I think I hijacked that AI one now. I'm just quite excited about it. So, subject number 2: support and well-being in a state agency. It comes in and out of the light. We have a period where there's a lot about well-being, there's a lot about mental health, and then it just sort of disappears because the market's doing X, Y, Z, or the market's really busy and the market's really, really positive. And then people are maybe less stressed because the market's really positive. So there was a survey completed, 500 legal firms, conveyancers, and agents. My general take on this is it was less agents and more legal firms and conveyancers. But they asked a few questions around well-being and how people felt in their work environment. 58% of respondents said they experience stress as a constant. Top three reasons is due to volume of workload, it's due to work-life balance, or a lack of management support. A lot of people reference that they want a better or more flexible working arrangement. And that's sort of where this news piece stopped. Now, we've heard some of this stuff before. I'm going to ask you guys what you think about what does good well-being look like in agency? What could we be doing? What should we be encouraging? One thing before I hand over, though, is 58% of respondents experience stress as a constant. I think we just really need to be careful on interpretation of the word stress. We used to run surveys every quarter in our old business, and we had 50 to 60 people working in that business, and they were questions around health, well-being, interaction, how to make sure we were servicing our team as best we possibly could. And we would have to explain the questions at a high level of detail so there was not an interpretation issue. And I think the word stress allows for a lot of, I've had a tough day, and some people might call that stressful. Pressure versus stress, do people see them as the same thing? So I'm not sure whether it's correct that 58% of people experience true stress as a constant, but I do appreciate that we work in a tough industry and a tough business. What do we think, guys, from a health and well-being perspective? Michelle, let's start with you. What are we doing well? What could we be doing better, do you think?
I mean, we're a small team, and I don't have the same pressures that maybe a London estate agent has, where your commission, is the bulk of your wage, because we're very much a salaried team with a bonus for selling a house. It's always been our setup. But one is just talking to your team. How are you? You tend to find when somebody's actually upset or stressed, it tends to be quite often an outside of work issue. So, for instance, that could be, I've got a club at the moment, her dog's poorly. Well, I'm a big pet fan. I've got my little baby Boots. So she's obviously really worried about that. That's not linked to the workplace. So it's just making sure, she's okay. Does she need to call the vets? Does she need to go home and see a dog? Another colleague, his father passed away last year. I've been through it myself. That's a different way of how can we support that person. So I find a lot of people's stresses or issues quite often are outside the workplace, and sometimes just talking, having a coffee in the staff room in private makes them feel better. The number 2 thing, I can wabble about this one all day, this is my waffling subject, is ban swearing from your office. Because when somebody's swearing because a client's upset them and annoyed, all it does is wind everybody else up. So they get all stressy, and it just makes a very atmosphere. Just keep it nice, calm, chilled. There's no need to swear just because something's upset you. Really not a big fan of swearing at all in the workplace. And then the third one is I really don't know why people have to have your phone number out of hours. I'm an agent for 22 years. On an average year, we'll sell a house a day, and not one client has my phone number out of hours. I do all my valuations via WhatsApp, and at 5 p.m. that is switched off. And if they WhatsApp me, they will see that my phone is switched off until 8:45 in the morning. So, and none of my team, you know, none of my clients have any contact with my colleagues' numbers. At 5 o'clock, they can go home and enjoy family time. And I think we put too much on, let's do a deal at 10 p.m. and post it on LinkedIn. Oh my God, you know, look at me doing this, look at me doing that. And as you say, it's just, who are you trying to impress?
Setting boundaries from the start, isn't it? It's having that so the client's expectation from the start. This is when I'm available, because I think we've all been there, and I've had Sundays ruined, like at a family meal, and I've been guilty of that. That, you know, the clients message me, you have to ring me, this has gone wrong, and it just dominates your day, and you end up upsetting your family around you. And actually think it probably could have waited till Monday. Yes, they would have probably been a little bit more annoyed because I didn't respond to them, but you know, having dealt with it, like I said, it made their situation better, but it made the rest of my day awful because the wife didn't talk to me.
I have Money Penny, so at 5 p.m. So our official finish time is 5 p.m. and ideally I want the team out the door at 5 p.m. That is my ultimate aim every day. But some days things need doing, and we have an office policy of if a call's been made and you've got to call them back, you call them back before you go. So my clients might get told I'm on video evaluations, I'm out with clients, she'll call back before the end of the day. Now, the other night, I had to make a call at 7:15, but that's because actually at 4:30, I decided to finish my day. I decided to go to the supermarket. I decided to take an hour's drive home, which took a bit longer because of the motorway traffic. But I knew that call did need making, and I made it. And she was grateful because she went, "Oh my God, Michelle, it's 7:15. I said, "Oh, don't worry." I said, "John's cooking the tea. Gets me out of that job." You know, so I turned to a positive. But it's just setting those boundaries. So yeah, one, ask your team how they are, genuinely be interested. And you'll find that quite often the stress is outside your workplace, which makes you feel better as a business owner. Secondly, ban swearing from the office because it just stresses everybody else out. And thirdly, set your boundaries with your clients. Right?
You wouldn't want to come into our office, Michelle. There's a lot of swearing that can happen on many a floor.
So you've probably got people that get stressed, you see.
It's interesting.
I'll agree with that one.
We used to have
right. I think
our
I'm the worst
rule was communicate like the client was in the room. So if the client was in the room, you of course you wouldn't swear, but you'd also soften the language. You wouldn't you don't talk negatively or derogatory about buyer, seller, anyone that's being interacted with, because you maintain professionalism at all times. As it happens, that was in our old business, and we haven't brought that rule over to the new business. So that's one for us to look at. And we all know that from time to time you interact with testing characters, and the very fact that Michelle's rule is no swearing means we deal with people that occasionally make us want to swear. So what we used was we would describe those individuals when we came off the phone as a character. So, God, they are a real character, and that would be it. And everyone knows what that means. Everyone understands it. And it's almost it's okay. I've said it. It's out. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm moving on to the next thing. But yeah, Michelle, my major takeaway is just care about your team. If you care about your team, then
you've got to remember the stressy client. Why are they stressed? If you've done your valuation properly, you've met that client, you know the true reason why they're moving. And it could be that some of the family's terminally ill. It could be the need to pay university fees. They may have lost a job. They're struggling. But then you know the reason behind them, and it's a lot easier to handle because it's not you, it's them. You just got to make it easier.
Yeah,
past experiences.
Also, some people are just very difficult, and actually, I think specifically in the market we operate, our business deals with some very challenging characters, and it's not about necessarily their circumstance; it's about their profile, it's about who they are and how they want to behave. But yeah,
they've got no space in my business. because I've got the authority and evaluation. If I find that client difficult at that point and unmanageable, I don't want their business.
Yeah, I mean,
And it
all I
doesn't
would
sit-
say, Michelle, is when you're running the #1 business in the country, you do sit in a position of power, whereas smaller businesses, newer businesses, younger businesses, they're trying to fight their way through, and they need to do business, and sometimes they have to accept they're going to work with people that are not their A-star #1 client profile.
But we've always had that way. You know, when I started 22 years ago, we had that way. Because if that client is going to, if you've got a client who's going to be at the traffic lights outside your office, and you see them at the crossing, and your colleague thinks, oh, just give me 2 seconds, I need the toilet, and off they vanish, or, oh my God, it's him, I'm on the phone busy. That client, there's a problem. And is the problem how you've been dealing with him or her, or is it them as a character? And if it's them as a character, if you've instructed it might need disinstructing.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever find yourself hiding from clients, then yeah, I think you've got an issue there. You've
We've all
instructed
had
the wrong
them.
one. That's quite an extreme. I hope in 20 years we've never brought a client on that our team have hid from or pretending they're on the phone from. But yeah, I take your point. Adam, what do you think? Well-being, what's going well? What could maybe be doing better?
Yeah, it's inherently tough in this industry, isn't it? Because it's a dog-eat-dog world. You know, lots of agents work on commission. You see working late, getting extra instructions as a higher paycheck for a lot of agents. That's what it means. It is this assumption that if you work hard, you get paid more. And a lot of time that's true. And for some people that works. But I think it's important to take that perspective of what is success for you personally and what is success for your business. Is it having employees who are hitting all their numbers, they're fantastic, and then you lose them after 6 months because they're burnt out, they look for a new challenge, they move out of the industry. It's one of my favorite catchphrases that, and I'm yet to be proved wrong, and please feel free to jump in, anyone on this call, but I'm yet to meet anyone who grew up wanting to be an estate agent. I think it's something people fall into, maybe accidentally or as an initial job at a lower level. You fall in love with it because it's a great industry, it's fast paced, you get to work with cool tech. You know, you have to be a specialist in lots of different areas: client management, sales, using technologies, handling tough situations, and have the drive to go out there and put yourself out there and work hard to get your higher paycheck. And I think it's sometimes taking that step back and realizing, well, actually, you know, yes, I could earn my business a little bit more next month, or this employee is a top performer. Maybe I need to reset the standards. And, you know, it's a business decision. You've all mentioned clients who are taking up more time, hard clients who are taking up more time and probably paying the same fee as someone else. And I think sometimes having that bravery to say, yeah, maybe we don't take this instruction, it's lower revenue in the short term, but actually that gives us the time to focus on a better quality of service to those clients we are working with. And I think it's a brave stance, Michelle, and it's obviously very respectable what you've taken up in your position. I think it goes to show you've grown to the size of business you have with that approach, so it shows it works. But it's having that bravery. If you're an individual agent and you're in that high pressure performance, you've got KPIs to hit, is having that bravery to make those decisions. Say, you know, what is success for me? Is it taking home that extra paycheck this month, or is it actually longer term success through meaningful relationships, meaningful transactions, and not burning out?
Yeah, I mean, really, really great points. We say that as well quite a lot, Adam, that no one grows up wanting to be an estate agent, and no one retires wanting to be. No, I'm just kidding. I think what you and Michelle have both said, it resonates, I would imagine, with lots of people that are watching this podcast, with all four of us. It's about right clients. It's about deciding what you want your work life to be. I do wonder, however, though, in relation to the survey, whether stats like 58% of people experience stress as a constant and they blame it on workload, work-life balance, and lack of management support, whether that's really particularly relevant to good independent agents, or whether it comes from a different section of the market, a different segment of the market. I hate the term employees or staff. We call ourselves a team. We're the team. We talk about the team, our team. I don't think any of our guys would see that as their experience of what a state agency is. But then I walk up and down the high street, or maybe you guys are the same, and you look in at some businesses and people just don't look happy to be there. You know, they look drained, they look miserable, they look like they don't, you know, in a sales environment, it should be fun and enjoyable and buzzy and things happening. So I do wonder if what we're talking about, we've got three great business people on the podcast here that do things in the right way. But I do wonder if it's other estate agency business
Possibly.
profiles that are really struggling with this.
There was a post on Facebook yesterday in one of the groups by somebody who works for a large corporate, who basically at the monthly managers meeting gets the hairdryer treatment. And basically she'd been brought to tears in front of, I think, 15 other managers. And she's been told, well, that's my style of management, get over it. I question, should the area manager actually be an estate agent? And maybe he should look for a different role that suits him better. Because if that's the way, he's obviously stressed and he's passing that on. But, you know, the issue obviously lies with him or the way his manager's talking to him.
Yeah, I think that's really, I would imagine that's the segment of the market that finds it most difficult. Adam, you mentioned about KPIs and hitting numbers. In our smaller independent businesses, I think we have a real focus on the people that work with us. And Michelle, I think you're probably empathizing. You know, you're describing that particular area manager as stressed. He or she might just not be a very nice person, and they've worked their way to the top. They find themselves in a position because they're a very good salesperson, but they burn people on the way through. You know, who knows? Alex, you've got 3 to 4 minutes on well-being. Tell us all the brilliant things you guys do down there, because I am a massive fan of Archer & Co. Joe, who also has Fine & Country, is a fantastic estate agent, but an even better human being. So I know you guys smash the well-being piece out of the park. Just tell us about it.
I mean, a lot of that's probably got to do with going to the pub after work. But no, I think, you know, as a team here, like I said, even like the little wins, like on a Friday, you know, we just say, look, everybody come to the office, we'll open a bottle, you know, whether it's been a good or bad week, because sometimes you just need that little bit of a decompression before people head out, because, you know, I think, and doing things throughout the year, you know, Joe's a big fan of, you know, we go to the races, we have summer parties, and it's like little rewards for that. We go to London, we go to conferences, and it's great for, you know, all members of the team, not just the valuers or the people. You know, we try and get everyone to meet. Obviously, Abby in the office, as you know, one agent's giving. You know, sorry, Ben, obviously to bring that up, but obviously the Strictly Come Dancing. But we as a team went down. You know, we went there to support her, and you know, it's great to be able to be part of a culture. And I think that's probably what a lot of the difficulties a lot of agents face, especially in the corporate, is the culture. And all right, some corporate agencies, people thrive in those cultures, but I think there's a lot of people, Michelle, like that lady you mentioned, that they just get crushed to the point they don't want to be an agent anymore. And it's sad to see that. And I bet there are so many people that have to go in those meetings. And, you know, I've been there, and, you know, you could hit your sales target, you've got your listings target, but then they hang you out to dry because you didn't hit your FS target for the week. And you think, yeah, but I did really well on all the others. Yeah, but you didn't do well, Al. You just didn't do well enough. You've got to do better. And you're thinking, you know, and that, I just don't think you get the best out of people. Some people you will, but I think overall, I think that, you know, I think overall as agents, I think, you know, we get kind of taught that, you know, we have to be a bit of an emotional punch bag, because, Michelle, like you said, you don't know what that person's going through. And we've had occasions where people have rung up and they're very frosty on the phone, but it might have been they just had a really bad experience with another agent, or they've been on the phone to other agents trying to book a viewing, and they got to us eventually thinking, oh, here we go again, same thing over again. But if you can be that slightly different and speak to them, understand them, they think, well, that was different. And we've had people turn around at the end of the call and say, can I just say thank you so much for being so understanding, because all the other agents sounded like they couldn't wait to get us off the phone. So I think it's, again, it just comes down to that kind of inner culture. But I do think there's a lot of external things that do affect people. I think the market we've been through, I think puts so much pressure in, you know, buyers' expectations, multiple viewings, multiple offers. And, you know, I know it grind people down. I think the conveyancing system is grinding people down at the moment, because, you know, you can get a property on the market, you can agree a sale, everything's golden, everyone's happy, but then you're kind of handing it over for the next couple of months to, you know, the trusted solicitors, no matter how much we chase things. I know this is a separate topic.
I'm pulling you right back in. I'm pulling you in.
Yeah, I'm coming in.
You're about to take us off. You're gonna kill us with this.
Right. Well, anyway, I'm not going. It's a separate topic. But you know, to see people, like I said, we've had, you know, members of the team really upset because the solicitors thrown us under the bus on something that was nothing to do with us. Yet our sales progressors had to deal with the fallout from it, and it's, you know, it's really disappointing, because then we get to the end of the sale, and the seller says, "Oh, I'm not happy with the service I've had," when it's something that's out of control. We had one where the solicitor went home on a Friday rather than doing the simultaneous exchange and completion, and their attitude was, "Oh, he'll wait till Monday." But no, everyone had everything planned for the Friday, but it was our fault because we hadn't chased it. You think, well, no, we didn't. We can't help. They just decided to up and go home. And I think, unfortunately, that those things do wind you down and wind me up.
I'm pulling you in because you're about to say, well, we've all got that example, by the way. All of us have got that difficult example where someone in a chain has let everybody else down. But I absolutely 100% take your point that there are things out of our control that do impact our mental health. To go back to the first point that was made as part of this piece was communicate with your team. And so when things go wrong, leadership, effective communication, pulling people in, talking them through it, making sure they understand that you appreciate that it wasn't their issue, and you will help them through it. I think it goes so far. Right, I'm conscious we've got 3 minutes left. I was going to waffle on there, but we've got 3 minutes. Michelle, you want to say something?
My team just replied to me. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've just emailed my team before, and they've moved my appointment on 15 minutes for me.
Okay. No, we're gonna listen.
Sorry,
we're gonna
Michelle.
go through this.
Okay.
This happens most weeks. We're going to do best agent or favorite agent or somebody you'd like to shout out, a brief why, and then your piece of advice, your thing that agents should be doing right now. We're going to go. We're going to try and do that, each of you, in 60 seconds. Okay, Alex, 60 seconds. I'll prompt you. The other guys, I'm confident will be okay. Michelle, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'm going to go for one of my favourites of Luke St Clair from Knightsbridge Estate Agents. He's helped shape my career in both social media, believing in myself, raising my fee, genuinely good guy, get stuck on something. Whatever group I post a problem in, the likelihood if Luke sees it, he's going to reply to me, and if he doesn't know the answer, he'll tend to guide me to somebody who does. So 10 out of 10 to Luke. Not just a great estate agent, but kind-hearted, generous. Just a general lovely human being.
Lovely. Really, really nice. Really nice. Your great tip or your piece of advice for agents to try and, help them with the market conditions they might find themselves in right now?
Be consistent in everything you do. So for me, as I said before, I write down my list of things that will give me a sense of achievement each day. And I'm consistently boring with it. And don't try and go for the short win. It's always a long game.
Completely
and just be
agree.
generally nice and helpful to people. All this stuff about serving people. We're not here to serve. We're here to help.
Yeah, nicely put. I agree, actually. Yeah, serving is when you phrase it like that, is an interesting choice of terminology that so many use. Okay, lovely. That was 60 seconds. Adam, great agent, why, and then your piece of advice.
Yeah, I'm going with Andrew Wilson of Laybrooks Estate Agents up in Letchworth, I think it is. Andrew won't have a clue who I am. We've never met. I hope he sees this.
I love that.
The reason why I'm saying that is because I've heard of Andrew through word of mouth from a colleague of mine, and that would have been passed down through several different people. No direct business, no direct relationship, and yet the words used to describe Andrew is how I want to be described to other people. I heard of him through someone else in the industry, and they didn't mention his number of sales, his revenue, his listing numbers, or anything like that. They just said Andrew knows his stuff. And I thought that's how I want to be described when people refer me, is he knows his stuff. He was described as a market expert. He goes into valuations and he listens to what people needs. And then he's like a doctor. He prescribes what they need to get the results they've described. He's got the experience and he matches his clients' needs with his expertise and gets the results. And I thought that's how I want to be described when people refer me. So that's why I'm giving Andrew the shout out.
That's marvelous. Luke and Andrew, that is two great shouts for not in your own businesses. You never even met Andrew. This podcast is going to introduce you to Andrew. Andrew will reach out to you now. I have no doubt in my mind. And your piece of advice for agents, please.
Be confident, back yourself. If you're a quality agent and you've got the right morals, a tough market is your time to shine. It's been said a few times on this podcast today and in previous episodes. a market like this is a time where you get to stand out and you can show your gravy. I think you said last week, Ben, this is what we've been training for. This is what we've been preparing for as good agents. And if anything, in a tougher market, it's easier to excel as a good agent. When it's easy to sell properties and it becomes, everything goes for above the asking price, any agent with a cheap haircut, myself included, and a decent suit can walk in and sell a property. In a tougher market, the cream rises to the surface. Is that the right phrase? I think it is. Cream rises to the surface. I'm going with it. And this is your chance to shine. If you believe in what you do and keep at it, as Michelle says as well, confidence in what you do, as long as you know you're sticking to the right things and ticking the right boxes, you'll succeed.
Good man. Lovely. Lovely. All right, Alex, we're over to you for the big finish. 60-second countdown. I'm legitimately timing you. Who's your agent?
Well, I've got two. I'm going to start with one first and foremost.
Of course, you've got two.
Carrie, who I work alongside in Chepstow, I want to give a big shout out to her because she's been agent for 34 years, which I think is as long as I've been alive, but she hates it when I bring that up. But basically, she joined us and didn't believe that she'd be able to get the fees that we charge. She thought that's just not going to work in the area she was going to cover, didn't want to do video. And it just goes to show if you do push yourself, and she smashed all that. Now she's getting some of the best fees in the company. So I wanted to give a shout out to her because just goes to show stepping out of your comfort zone is important. And also she's kind of taught me that property is 90% people and 10% houses. And she's very good at building those relationships and bonds. And that's what's really important. So shout out to Kerry.
Lovely.
Second shout out is actually to someone on this panel, which is Miss Michelle Gallagher. Because Michelle, back in lockdown, you showed me how to do virtual valuations. And I got to say, it transformed our business because we were the only agent in our area doing anything remotely like it. And, I've got a big thank to you because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have come out of lockdown with 20, 30 listings ready to hit the market. So massive a shout out to you for introducing us to that.
Right. Cringe factor over. Michelle, I love you. Very nice of you to say that, Alex. Michelle is the go-to gold standard of agents.
She's the best in the UK.
The shout out for Carrie is really nice as well. Coachability, Carrie, brilliant, well done. What's your piece of advice? And then we're going to wrap up.
I think, again, just coming back to that, just remember that it's 90% people and, have those conversations, give people the time of day. Now the market's quieter, we've got more time to have better conversations with people. So it's no longer having to jump from call to call. Take your time and, like I said, try and, as Michelle said earlier, understand why people are doing what they're doing, get to know their why and build that rapport. And that'll give you all the rewards you need. Lovely.
What a beautiful finish, Alex. Articulated that so well, so nicely. So we have reached the end. 4 minutes we overran by. I blame it all on Alex, but that's okay. I think I was probably
you can cut a load of that out, but I'm sure you'll find lots to cut out.
No, we don't have a time frame for the amount of the length of the video. It's more Michelle's had to reschedule her appointment. So thank you guys. The three of you have been brilliant. Hopefully some great advice for agents, some really interesting content. And we're going to hand over now to Chris Watkin for his weekly Watkins Whimsy. So it's just left for us to say goodbye. Goodbye.
All the best. Thank you.
Statements get judged. Questions get answered. Remember that when you're on your next valuation.